Hi, everybody. Today is Monday, December 20th of 2021, and this is our last Rudy Psychic Meetup for 2021, and we
Yeah.
are here live at Rudy's house. Thanks for hosting me for this
Yeah.
event.
It's been great to have you and your family here, Sam. We got to meet up with some Sandjammers last night and got to meet the family. And so we've been enjoying some holiday time. And this is Rudy's Psychic Meetup Ugly Sweater Edition. I didn't inform Sam of that beforehand. We just kind of made that impromptu.
And I see you have your ugly sweater, Bitcoin. I tried to put on that hat that you gave me, but my husband said, "Are you supposed to look cute or kind of silly?" I was like, "Say no more."
It was silly. It could be a little bit silly. That's fine.
I was like, "I'm supposed to look cute."
So yeah, welcome to my living room. So we thought it'd be fun to do an in-person show with two of us together on the same screen in front of our Christmas tree. Which I'm lucky I got that put up in time this year.
Yes, absolutely.
So, Sam, we are at the last day of fall, and winter is tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
I always throw seasons. I get thrown off by seasons because I think like we're already into winter time, but we're just starting winter tomorrow on the solstice equinox. Tomorrow's the equinox. So, anything big for the winter time, 2021-22?
Well, let's see. What do I feel? There's a bunch of things that I was seeing happen this winter, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of action in Europe.
Okay.
And it was something that I alluded to a number of months ago when I talked about, I made reference to how I know that, the UK is not Europe, but I made reference to how 14,000 people had basically frozen to death
Right.
the previous winter in Britain. And it's a lot of lower income families or seniors mostly who just couldn't afford to pay the bills. But now we're going to see more and more people falling into that echelon of the population due to all of the lockdowns, the destruction of the business. And then you see all this crazy stuff going on with this pipeline. And, the Europeans, they need to do business with the Russians, but then they have the, Americans pulling on them and telling them not to.
Yeah.
And there's a big uproar with that. So I see that a lot of, I think a lot of things that we're going to see a lot of things taking place over the winter time that are going to be a catalyst for Europe.
Okay.
And it's going to be uncovered. I don't know if it'll be this winter or maybe it'll sort of when they do sort of the autopsy of what happened, looking at it and saying, well, this wasn't because of COVID. This was coming regardless. Because of the economics of Europe. And, there's been people running those countries for a long time. I don't know if it's just that they can't do math or maybe they were hoping to be dead before, things came into fruition. And I mean, don't laugh about that. I live in a semi-socialist country where your medical care is supposed to be free, but it's become so abysmal. I mean, we talked about that. It almost killed my husband.
Right.
Because it's, even if you have the money to pay, they won't allow you. And, I think that a lot of people are going to be waking up to the fact that things are not as they seem, things are not as great as they seem. But the silver lining is that we have blockchain that's going to free the world. And that's why I'm involved in it, because I really do feel that this is going to make the difference where so many more people are not only going to be able to survive, but escape the parts of the world. Watch for South Africa to be in the news again. There's going to be a resurgence in the violence. That is one place. There are just the no-go zones of the world where I'm just like, you know what? I don't care what you got going on in there. You just need to get out because, it's going to become, it's going to become life and death situations. And I mean, I don't want to start off on a negative pattern here, but people want to know what's coming so they can get out of the way. And I'm happy to be able to lower people's anxiety by saying, hey, you know what? If you live in America, it's going to be fine. If you live in Mexico, it's going to be fine. If you live in Canada, hey, no problem. But there's a lot of other countries that things are not going to be fine. And just stay tuned here. As I get information, I will blab it. I get no problem. Talking about it.
I saw the truckers just are boycotting Colorado. So there's all kinds of these little things I think will pop up. But I will say, definitely, you just pay attention to the news. It feels like the facade is falling down piece by piece. But Sam, since you've been on this grand road trip for a week, I wanted to find out, Has anything happened on your road trip of note? Like, as a working medium, sometimes people might get thrown in your path that you might need to help. Has anything like that, or have you been able to kind of keep it low profile so far?
Well, I've been able to keep it low profile so far, but one of the things I've noticed hanging out with my family is we'll be having conversations in the car, and it'll be about, very random things. And then all of a sudden it will be brought, we'll get to our hotel room, we'll turn on the news, and that random thing will be spoken about. And that's happened on quite a few times actually on the trip, because again, I think my dogs are in heaven. I don't think they've spent that much time with me and my husband and our son on a nonstop basis. I mean, I think they're still kind of discombobulated, wondering what's going on here. They're around all the time, and
they're in this tight space. They're it's definitely a tightly packed car. So
Yes.
well, we'll see what else happens, because you still got a long way to go to get down to where you're going. So well, tonight's topic, I wanted to just touch on something that during our meetup last night, Louder brought this up. So thanks, Louder, for the idea. I want to talk about people that channel entities, and mainly these collective groups. And it's a phenomenon where it's more popular on YouTube now. People have noticed there's probably some people that you've heard of before. Some are more prominent than others. But typically what happens is a person will channel someone claiming to me they'll be maybe a medium or claim that they have these abilities. And the group they're channeling, it's like a collective of people from the other side, and they'll usually give them some sort of name. And it's interesting because some will be like claimed to be like multi-dimensional beings, so not necessarily source, but other dimensional. Others will be ETs. Some people confuse these, maybe not confuse, but will represent this as a collection of their guides that they're channeling, and they all have a message for you, and it's usually a pretty positive message. But Sam, as I think about this, we've covered a couple examples, but think about, source being the highest and the low vibrational entities being the lowest. Where do you think some of these entities fall into place? Because are they like over here, like other dimensional? You would think that they would be connected to source, but what can you get as I talk about that as a sense of where these entities might be from?
Okay. Well, that's a very interesting question, Rudy. And I find that you always find the most interesting subject matters, which are also can be controversial.
Right.
And my first introduction to channeling was when I was very young. I would say that if I was not a teenager, I would have been maybe late elementary, but I'm thinking maybe I was in junior high, and I was watching a news program called 2020. And they had a lady on there, and she was from California, and she claimed to channel this this man who used to live on Earth, and I don't know if it was like the 4th century BC, and he was like a wise man, and it would show her up on stage, and she was just an actress, really. And I would watch it, and I was smiling and kind of laughing a bit, because I knew that I could read minds and see the future. And I was looking at her, and I knew that she was a total and complete fraud, that she had sucked in all of these people. And I saw she had this big, beautiful, expensive ranch in California. She had horses, which are very expensive to keep. And I thought, oh, isn't that interesting? Because I remember referring to the grown-ups. I was like, boy, she's really pulled the wool over on the grown-ups, and I'm just a kid. And I can see right through this, that she is totally and completely fabricating. So myself, somebody who was involved in business for over 30 years, I was not involved in the woo-woo world at all. Yeah. I was not involved I didn't know about channeling. I didn't know there were all these YouTube people claiming to channel. So when I started on the Patreon, one of the things that I have always welcomed is people sending me links of videos like, Sam, what do you think of this? People just want my opinion. Yeah. And I've learned so much from everybody some people have been involved in woo-woo for, 30 years or more, and they're able to tell me about all these things that are out there. And I will tell you, the majority of things that people have sent me have been total and complete frauds. These are not entities of any kind. They are entities of a figment of their imagination. And I find that some people, they like the attention. And I will share with you that even as a medium, I've had to tell people, no, you told me that before.
Okay.
That's not from your oh no, no, I didn't tell you that. Like people would almost try to sort of put on me that I must have gotten that from source
Right.
or something
Right.
like that, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like the majority of these are total and complete frauds, just like many people who claim to be clairvoyant
Okay.
are not for real. And again, it's from people sending me links. I watch it just like I watched that 2020 magazine and program, and was able to see very clearly that this lady was completely fraudulent.
Okay.
And, even though they may do good things in their work, I don't agree that good can come from bad
Okay.
in that sense, where you're ripping people off and taking money from them. Why doesn't just everybody do that,
Yeah.
instead of going out and getting a real job? And again, you will find in the woo-woo world, there's a large collective of no talents who just don't want to go out and get a job. You know what? Working is for you, right? You go out and work and you send them your hard-earned money.
Yeah.
Listen, every single penny that anyone's ever paid to me, I recognize that they've worked for that money, or they've gotten it from somebody who's worked really hard for that money. So I accept it with gratitude, but I also realize there's a huge responsibility that comes with that.
Yeah, and I want to give some of these the benefit of the doubt. Just don't go believing anything that you see. But just as we have this group, you have the people on the other side. You kind of have a specific, I think it was around 1,000 or so target size for your group, and those are the people that are going to gather to you and help. And I wonder if some of these people that claim to be channeling, are they maybe psychics who don't, maybe, or mediums, and maybe they don't understand it, or they're using the wrong terminology as to what they're doing or getting. And just like us, maybe they have a group of people that are drawn to them, because a lot of these are, they go hand in hand with self-help groups. So it'll be like, better yourself. And this attracts, I think, certain people. So you can definitely do a lot of general things and pretend that you're channeling. But I understand, do you get a sense that any out there that maybe it's possible that they are maybe just kind of using different terminology than we might think,
Okay, so if you have somebody who is truly channeling, as in a being has come inside of them, that's very dangerous.
Okay.
Normally, it is a demonic entity.
Okay.
And so that would be people sometimes who may exhibit mediumistic abilities,
Okay.
but they're channeling a dark spirit that they've allowed to enter them. So this would be somebody who did not exhibit any psychic medium abilities whatsoever their entire life, and then perhaps they started doing playing with divination tools,
Right.
and praying to whatever God will give them some powers.
Yeah.
And so you have to remember that there's things wandering around the in between all the time, especially the demonic entities, and they would just love to enchain and enslave a light being. I mean, that would be quite the prize for them, wouldn't it?
And you can coat something in a lot of sugar and drop just the slightest destructive thing. Because I was listening to someone today, and that kind of came to mind, that everything is very positive, but then there's one thing that if you kind of take it, you're like, that might not be such a good message. And even though it sounds really, really, overall it seems positive. I don't really like to do where we name names or call people out, or say, hey, Sam, what do you say? What did, this person said this? What do you think? But I do want to read a couple examples, things that have come up of people that are out there, and just tell you the couple examples of these entities, and then we'll head on to questions. So one is, the name is Bashar, is supposedly a physical ET, a friend from the universe who has spoken for the past 37 years through someone named Daryl Anka. And this is a lot of the new wave information, how the universe works. Do you get anything, Sam, that is a legitimate entity?
No.
Okay. Next one is Seth, and it's a name used by a spiritual teacher channeled by Jane Roberts and her husband, Robert Butts. And this, I think, is a pretty well-known one. And it's this idea that reality is multidimensional. Individuals create their own reality. So again, a lot of this new age stuff. Do you get a sense that Seth is a legitimate entity? This is
Well, see, there's the complete frauds who are just making stuff up,
okay.
and then there's people who are getting information and you know, just from the dark entities.
Okay.
And I'm feeling like this Seth is maybe that. Was
Okay.
that the one you were listening to where they sort of candy
This
coated?
was a different one. This was so Seth is one, like they claim to be presented as Seth, like this entity, but it was really coming from source, but people wouldn't believe it if you said it was from source. So they, like, the dynamic has really changed. I haven't studied it that much, but I think there's probably a large body of work that they've written around this. But the last one is, there's someone named Lee Harris. He channels a group called the Z's. And this is part of like a collective of 88 spirits that he'll have conversations with. Again, mostly very positive messages, a lot of self-help stuff. And that's an interesting one. Anything on the Z's?
I think that a lot of the people who are in that group would truly claim to have some things that are happening, and
Okay.
that's how these things get you.
Okay.
Right. That's why people, for example, play with the pendulum, because it
Right.
seems to have some sort of, it magically just starts to swing and answer your questions. And then
Right.
sometimes people realize like what they're doing, because then some stuff starts to happen around their house.
Okay.
Because what happens is you're opening up and you're welcoming these things in it. And you have to remember that if you haven't been, I'll go back to listening to a Catholic priest who's an exorcist in the United States, and he makes a very good point. He said that he did not volunteer to become an exorcist, and in fact, the Archbishop said that there was quite a few young men who wanted to be exorcists because of the power and the
Right.
recognition, and he said that he would never give the job of an exorcist to somebody who actually wanted to do it.
Interesting. Okay.
And it was because of the intentions, right? So just going back to even my situation where I did not want to be a medium, I had made a decision that I was not going to work as a medium, that I was going to set that aside and run away from it and just live my life here as a normal person. But there was just so many things thrown up in front of me that I just couldn't get away. I mean, they were like, you have an assignment, you must do this.
Yeah.
But then more than that, by having the folks around me who joined the Patreon, I was able to get confirmations of my abilities from them.
Okay.
Because even I would test myself to make
Right.
sure that it wasn't anything negative or bad, but also I would test myself to make sure that I was on the right track with things. Confirmation is 100%. And I'm still gobsmacked by the number of people who follow individuals where really there's no proof. There's no proof of anything. And these people make millions of dollars. And
it's very positive. It makes you feel good. But I'm in the back of my head is always the long con, right? So how long can something be going? And it's really maybe leading you just enough off path that you're not supposed to go where you're going. But I think the bottom line with all this is really discernment, as it comes down to saying some people resonate with other people, but hopefully discernment is the first priority for you.
Yeah. And it's like, why can't people just join Toastmasters or something? Like, why do they have to get into playing with these things? Because what happens is that there is, if you saw what was out there in the in-between, just waiting to pounce, there's some lines, and I mean, I'm not a Christian, but I am aware of Christianity and some of the teachings in the Bible that do come from individuals who did have access to source, who did do some writings. And there's a line there that says, the devil is like a lion that, prowls searches to and fro to look to see whom he may devour. And this is, like you said, the long con. I mean, and I mean, people didn't when they joined Jim Jones, they didn't know it was going to end with them drinking Kool-Aid. I mean, this is what happens to a lot of these groups that really get off of path. So I double check myself all the time, and I just give it over to source and just say, hey, listen, people, you were the ones who asked me to do this. I take instructions from you. What is it that you'll have me do for these people? Like, what is going to help them lower anxiety? Because that's a really big message I get. Lower the anxiety, the vibrations are lifting, people are feeling it. Anxiety is a natural part of your vibrations lifting, because the human body is not really made for it, but it's the Great Awakening.
And I will say, if you're coming into this space, coming into the woo space, you're going to read a lot of this stuff. And I would say it's always great to read as much as you can, learn stuff, and put stuff on a shelf. Don't necessarily believe it, discard it, but just kind of say, that's interesting. And you'll see some similar things emerge. And anyway, yeah. All right. Well, good stuff, Sam. With that, why don't we jump into the questions, and we'll see how many. We got 16 tonight. Right. So I'm reading off of my iPad, so I think this should go well.
And I'll hit the start answering.
Okay. Does everyone like our fake fireplace? I searched YouTube to get a nice fireplace video. All right, so our first question comes from Cowboy Coder. We are entering into what many call the fourth turning, in which many social changes take place. Cryptos represent a large and maybe foundational component of this change. Can you discuss what the other major societal changes are in store for humanity along social, economic, spiritual, and religious aspects? As always, thanks for all you both do to bring more awareness to these alternative topics.
Well, there is going to be a rise in spiritualism. So individuals like myself are going to be sought after more than ever before. But it'll also be the rise in, the no talents. The invasion of the no talents are now going to continue to invade the woo-woo space with their made-up stories and events, and, because again, they just don't want a job. They don't want to do a regular job. So that's one thing. People will become. So we've gone from a time where people really stopped going to church, following the religion that their parents taught them, so that they would have nothing at all. But then they have this empty space inside of them, and all of this stuff is happening in the world that is making them fearful and making them start to think about their their end, what happens after I die. So individuals like myself who have an answer as to what happens when we die. I don't know everything, but I just know what the people on the other side have told me, plus what I glean from, like I said, making that run back and forth every day, where through the in between to the other side to get my information. And I glean stuff on the way, because you kind of, when you're running, you're looking around because I'm nosy just like everybody. I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. Tell me. I'm naturally curious. So that's one thing that's going to happen. There's also going to be an increase in natural disasters. And so you'll find volcanoes that have been dormant for years and years will be popping off, but all at the same time. When I said the everything all at once a couple of years ago, that was the best way that I can describe it, because it's not only do you have a rise in mental illness, you have economic collapse in countries that had been going along tickety-boo for years. I mean, look at Turkey. Right. Turkey can't stop the free fall of its money. Lebanon is completely blowing up. I think anytime now, Israel and Iran are going to get into it. That was the one hot war that I saw coming out. I was afraid for that war. Yeah. And I really don't want my American friends to get sucked in to another war, because you guys don't need any more problems. I mean, look what defending the world has gotten you, right? A big bupkis, nothing but the finger from everybody else. So, I say, I want to see peace for my American friends, and I want them to turn inward and focus on, making each other stronger and holding each other up more, so that, they can have a defense against what's coming from the rest of the world. Because there's going to be a lot of countries in trouble, and there's going to be a lot of people trying to run to America. And also in a secondary part like Canada, any place that really is not terrible to be in, Europe is going to be a terrible place to live in. If you're watching this and you live in Europe, if there's any way that you can get out, or at least make your escape plan, start looking at where would you like to go to. Oh, maybe you can, if with your cryptos, when you're taking some cash out, why don't you, instead of paying off your house in, let's say, Belgium, why don't you look at buying a condo in Florida or something? Yeah, that's a good point. So at least when you land at the airport, you can give them your address and they're not as concerned about you just living on the street and causing problems for them, right? Because this is going to happen. It's going to be hard when you land from an airplane, and they're gonna be like, what are you doing here? And what, because they're going to be aware that the entire world is going to be trying to get into America, I think.
And it's amazing how quickly this happens, but also how slowly, because when you're in it, it doesn't seem like it's happening like that. You don't wake up and all the buildings around you are burning and there's car crashes like you see in a movie. But things can happen quickly over a week. I mean, look what happened to you coming down here, with vaccine status. You got to prove this. Now we're locking down, or there's going to be masks in this state. So things just kind of go out of control quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. I was all ready to go to San Diego. And then all of a sudden, 5 days, a couple of days ago, they were like, we're back in, everybody having to wear masks and stuff. And you know what? I can't do it anymore. I just can't. And I'm not going anywhere anymore. And that's the thing about making plans ahead of time, is that you don't have to bow down to these powers that be that are going to tell you, oh, you have to put a mask on your face. This has been really hard for me, because anybody who's been hanging out with me since early 2019, and if you had a reading done, I saw this coming. I didn't know what it was that was coming for the world, but I saw it.
Yeah.
And to know like what an absolute fraud it is has been really hard on me, to watch people losing their businesses, their livelihood. And if it didn't happen to you, it happened to a family member that you're sending money to help them, or a friend, and it's been really hard on people's heads.
Yeah. And that it's willingly too. Sometimes they just go along with it.
Yeah.
All right, let's go with our next question. Comes from Wayne, and we'll go ahead and click the answer there. Wayne says, I've been wondering if there's any truth that graphene in the COVID shots is able to transmit personal tracking information via Bluetooth. Seems incredible to me. So graphene is kind of like a metallic substance. Do you think there's anything that goes through your blood? And I think, remember, you saw like magnets, people sticking magnets onto there.
Yeah.
Do you think there's anything nefarious?
No, this is a total and complete fraud. Okay, stay away from those websites. I appreciate Franken Crypto. He had added a some sort of website or something that shows data going to a computer or what have you. That's all a fraud, Franken Crypto. So I'm glad that you posted that, because I mean, if you know about it, obviously other people know about it. So I just wanted to clarify that and just tell you guys, listen, all that stuff about the vaccination, again, it's invasion of the no talents. It's a bunch of people sitting around figuring out how. It almost seems like everybody wants to be influencers.
Yeah.
Nobody wants a real job.
And cheap magic tricks. So let's say I want to pretend that somebody's scanning my barcode. I could even tape something to the back of my arm and like hold the phone up and scan. And it looks convincing on video, but there's plenty of ways people find to just trick other people. It's a lot of fun.
Just ignore them. Don't put your time and energy into it. And worst of all, don't spread that stuff around.
Yeah.
Because I'll land on you. Don't do it.
All right. Our next question. Olya, that's a new name. So welcome, Olya. Glad to see you have a question here. Dear Rudy and Sam, great to see your team together. There have been persistent information on the net about a possibility of internet blackout sometime soon. Do you see this or similar events happening, and how can it possibly endanger cryptos?
Okay, well, this is very much the same as the Three Gorges Dam tale that a bunch of people were jumping on. Now, remember that the Three Gorges Dam was going to break and somebody had inside information, blah, blah, blah. You know what it is. I'm just like, oh my God, here we go again. So this is really very much the same. I mean, I'm just the no lady today. I'm just like, listen, there's going to be, I think that if you are somebody who wants to attract people to your channel, you want to generalize about things. Like even my comments about forest fires and stuff, like in different areas and stuff, like, because I'm not specific on it, I just tell people, I'm like, just ignore that. Yes, it's coming, but I don't want you to count it as one of my quote unquote predictions, because it's really just too general. I see it, but I don't get enough information on it that I want you to count it as, but you know what, if you live in Australia and if you live in the outback and it's dry as tinder and you didn't get a fire last year or the year before, you're probably due for one this year, because I saw some really big fires coming for Australia again. But again, Australia has a problem with forest fires. It's like saying that California's going to get forest fires, but I had mentioned that it would be like the worst ever sort of thing. But again, it's stuff that I wouldn't hang my hat on. Like I wouldn't expect people to continue to return to my Patreon month after month with this type of general minutia that some people are just, spouting. And then when it doesn't happen, like the Three Gorges Dam, what happened there?
Nothing.
Right?
They just don't stop talking about it. Move on
Everybody,
to the next.
let's just move on, right?
Didn't happen.
And it's just like they're just trying to harvest you, and they also create so much anxiety. And I'm like, you know what? We got enough stuff that's going to be going sideways in 2022. We don't need you worrying about, people shutting off the internet and that sort of thing, because you have to remember that's the food supply as well. I mean, everything is run over the internet. I mean, people would absolutely lose their minds if they had like more than 2 days without their internet.
Yeah.
They would absolutely lose their SHIT. And I think that the lives of the government people would even become endangered if there was any chance that somebody threw a switch and turned it off. Oh man, I'm like, everybody's all laid back and everything and easygoing until they don't have their internet for a couple of days, and then they start, and then their kids are freaking out. Everybody's freaking out.
I think what's more likely is, like, this happened earlier this week, is like Amazon Web Service can go down in a region, or you can have some of these major server farms that have issues. So I couldn't turn on my lights because the server that my wireless system was on, I think, was offline. So you can say things like that and be accurate, because at some point in some region, or somebody's going to hit the fiber optic line out by the road and knock out your internet. So I think the way the internet's built, you can't knock it all down at once. So I would be really surprised to see that happen.
But they'll take, even if a small sampling happened, or if there was a what do you call it, a DDoS attack on a certain area, they'll be like, oh, that's it, that's the one that sure it was, right? It's just like I said, it's like people, predicting earthquakes for California. It's like, no shit, Sherlock. Like, we're going to get those for sure. But, when you have an unusual swarm of them in the area of Cascadia that I've been talking about, now I'm starting to get nervous, because that's come up quite a bit. So
Wanda Fuca, I remember you saying that back in 2019. Yes. So we'll see. All right. Next, let's go to the question from Freaking Crypto. So let's go to that. Is there a test or process to understand if someone has abilities and how to start towards enhancing that ability further? Specifically, whether they're able to read thoughts, remote viewing, telekinesis, telepathy, future seeing, or medium. So, Sam, is there a way to tell? I think I'll just say, from my experience, readings I've had, people have said, hey, you got something going on. It's like, hitting me over the head that maybe I should pay attention to stuff. But Sam, do you find that people are able to figure this out on their own sometimes, if they're just kind of like borderline?
Yeah, I mean, I smile a little bit sometimes. There's a couple of people I had to tell them they were mediums. And I'm like, okay, but it's really the experience. And there's no real test that you can take except that the confirmations, like what you see me. That's why I don't mind putting all my stuff out there, because I'm like, okay, I know that there's people out there, they have this ability, they're struggling with it. But then again, there's different levels of abilities as well. There is, you have high intuition. I believe most people, especially if you're in our crew, at a minimum, you probably have very high intuition, because you're attracted to people who can do things like what I do. And this sort of information fascinates you because you have something going, you got something going on. And then there's psychic people. And then psychic again is psychic is just knowings about things. Whereas being a medium, you're actually having a back and forth live conversation with the people on the other side. So people who have passed on, like somebody's father just died recently, and he was showing me himself, but for some reason he wanted to show off his hair, right? That it was like, for some reason it was a little bit longer, right? And he said to me, he was like, how do you like my Jesus hair? Right? And I was like, okay, I don't know what that was about. But his son said he always kept his hair short. So I was like, see, I was trying to figure out like what he was referring to. And I was
hair
like,
down.
I was like, but I thought that it was funny when he said to you, how do you like my Jesus hair? But
that's funny.
It was funny. But again, I was having a live conversation with somebody who had passed over, and I only have conversations with people who've had their end of life review. So I have seen people who are caught in between. They won't go for their end of life review yet. But I don't speak to them. I don't do the back and forth, but I can hear them Like I can hear them, what they're saying. I know the information they're trying to give me, but I do not. And I've told my son this. I'm like, if you see any more of those people, because he sees them too, I said, do not engage them. They will follow you around, and you really don't want that. So I only speak to people who are, I call them, and they're all shiny now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Well, yeah. And I would say for your crypto, the other thing is I've been in this group. It's learning how to pay attention. It's very subtle. So I don't consider myself as some greatly gifted psychic, but I know I'm starting to notice things and get little confirmations. And if you can start to learn to pay attention to the little stuff, then and learn, and we've talked about things and all these meetups, this is what they're for. So just start paying attention, and you'd be surprised.
Like if you are going on a trip and you're going through your drawers to see what you should bring, and maybe there was, those toothbrushes that your dentist gives you. So, yes, we all have those expensive, ones that you press on the button and they buzz your teeth and give it a nice clean, not those old fashioned toothbrushes. But if you all of a sudden get like a flash in your head to take that toothbrush, right? You're not necessarily they're not going to talk to you and say, oh, you should take that toothbrush because you're going to have a really hard time your first night out, in the hotel finding your toothbrush for some reason. So that one is a good idea. They're not going to tell you that. Or maybe, you'll run across somebody who, maybe your kid forgot their toothbrush or something like that. But when you pay attention to that, even if you don't act on it, later on, when like your spouse forgets their toothbrush, make a mental note. Oh my gosh, I got a flash earlier today when I was packing that I should have taken that. So that's really the simplest example I can give to people, is when you get like that feeling that you should be, and you don't know why, right? But see, you know what? I just go with it now. I don't even argue with it, because they don't give me all of the information, because again, I think it's too difficult for the translation to come through like that. Whereas other times, oh my gosh, it's crazy how much specific information I can get from somebody.
I love that, because like the Anaheim meetup 2 years ago, I grabbed a voice recorder on my way out. I'm like, I'm just going to grab it. And sure enough, we needed it because we couldn't figure out how to get the one that you had to work so we could record our meetup. Or my urge to buy my car, I'm like, the time is now. Then the price goes up within like 3 days. It's like, okay, I'll buy it, but it was the right time because things kept going up. So it's just paying attention.
Or that urge, like to flip my Theta when it was $8 or $9 into Live Pure when it was $17. And I share that with you guys because somebody said last night at the Arizona meetup, they were like, oh, you have to make sure that as soon as she says it, you got to do it.
That was my wife. She's seen that before. So, all right, great. All right, good question, Freaking Crypto. Bradley J says, hello, Rudy and Samantha. How exciting to see you both together. Scientists have been searching for and theorizing about dark matter for some time with no tangible evidence. Is it their only explanation on how the universe could look as it does? Is there dark matter? What accounts for the missing matter? Any insights from the other side?
The dark matter. Oh, geez. The people on the other side, they gave me the answer to that a little while ago. I'm trying to remember. The dark matter is our spirit in our bodies. Is that what they're talking about inside? There's dark matter?
It's more, is dark matter the opposite of like matter, or is it matter antimatter, I think? So like almost a void, an absence. God, I'd have to research dark matter a little bit more.
Yeah, because I did know the answer to that one, and I don't know why I'm not.
Is it like the etherical to our physical kind of thing? Is that what you were thinking?
Yes, because it's sort of like where does that extra part come from? Okay, so what is dark matter in simple terms? Dark matter is comprised of particles that do not absorb, reflect, or emit light, so they cannot be detected by observing electronic radiation. Dark matter is material that cannot be seen directly. Well, that would explain our little souls inside.
Yeah.
I would say that would fit the description. Maybe I'm off on that as far as the question that, Bradley is asking. I think there was a movie and it said something about whatever grams. It was
21 grams.
21 grams.
Yeah.
And
like that's the weight you go down and die 21 grams when you die, when your spirit leaves your body.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I'm thinking about is the 21 grams of dark matter that we have in us that doesn't reflect. It doesn't, it's not.
Yeah. Some people refer to that silver cord that connects you with your ethereal. All right. Freestar says, Hi, Sam. One mystery of the ancient world is the city of Petra in Jordan. It was awesome and gigantic. Who built it? Was it a race of extinct giants? And what was it used for? So there's a YouTube link there, which we probably won't watch. But yeah, Petra in the Middle East and Jordan.
Okay, well, I hadn't heard about Petra
Okay.
before. So is it like a city for giants?
Was it just very large structures? Let me see if I can pull it
Yeah,
up
because
here.
there were giants like a long time ago. And the
Petra.
Bible talks about them, the giants that walked the earth.
Yeah.
And I believe that they said that, women had made it with angels, but they weren't angels. They were, and they blew up some of that stuff too, didn't they, in Syria? Didn't they
Yeah,
have
so
some
they're
of that?
where they carved a lot of these things into the rock.
Right.
So I'm looking at Petra.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I don't know if Jordan was a part of, where the giants were, but I know that there was a race of giants. I did get that information from a question somebody asked a long time ago.
Okay. Yeah, maybe that's something we can look at later on if we get more pictures of ancient locations or something like that. Maybe we'll take a look at it.
Yeah, but there were aliens that did come here, and they did, and originally that's how I believe humanity started, was because the aliens, there was a group of aliens who were more scientific, but also wanted to use a higher functioning form of hominid, which is the humans now, by dickering with the DNA, because I mean they sort of made us more in their image as far as our intellect and our abilities to do things, but they needed slaves who were useful. That they could give instructions to, that could do complex tasks, because they needed the gold.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think we've talked about that before. Cowboys and Aliens and Prometheus are all some good movies that kind of touch on that. So, all right, our next question is from Tinkerbell. Hello, Sam. Thanks for your guiding light. Bad things happen in threes. When and what will happen between Russia, Ukraine, China, China, Taiwan, and Israel, Iran before the end of 2021? So that's only like a week and a half. Will the events start the financial change around the world going into 2022? Will this affect Christmas or New Year's? Vedic astrologers are sounding the alarm time-wise.
So I don't think China and Taiwan are going to end up going to war. I think China has much bigger problems, and they're trying to detract away from these problems by, beating the war drum with Taiwan, and that, and a lot of hate mongering against Americans as well is going on in China, from what I understand. This is just what I've been told by Chinese people who either live there or have recently come from there, or are speaking to friends and family who live there. But I've never felt that was going to become anything. And I mentioned earlier, it's interesting she mentions Iran.
Right, because you mentioned it earlier, yeah.
Yeah, because that's the war that scares me.
Yeah.
And when it happens, it will probably cause the stock markets to be shaken quite a bit, take a lot of stuff down. And what was the other one? Russia and Ukraine. I don't think anything is going to come from that. I do feel like Russia and Europe will have a closer bond, that Russia will help Europe. Yeah.
All right, interesting. Justin's kind of personal, but I'll say, Sam, what do you think about Thailand in general? Will they continue to have the vaccine mandates, or will they come out of this this COVID paranoia?
I do think that they will. And it's, again, I had expected us to come out of this COVID paranoia much sooner, just because of the economic collapse, the calamity that is coming to the world. And that's why I saw a worldwide Great Depression, with, North America and Mexico being the least affected. And then a few other countries here and there, like Singapore, I think will do pretty good. I ask people to keep an eye on Australia. I think their dollar is starting to tank now. Somebody had mentioned to me about a property or land that they're selling, and that it's like about, I'm trying to think of the percentage that it would be, like about, I think the price went up like 15% just in a month. But then I made the point to them and said, yeah, but it's because your dollar is going in the toilet. So as soon as you possibly can, whatever, Thailand or Australia or whatever country you're in outside of America, get your money in those American bucks if you can.
Okay.
And that will help you in the long term. But I'm not sure about the vaccination, how long that's going to go on, because I was wrong before on that. And it was because it seemed like everything was all over the place. I mean, I haven't worn a mask since I crossed the border.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, it all depends on where you're at too, right? Like that, if I went to California, then I'd have to wear a mask again. So it's really hard to be like that specific and pinpoint exact areas when I'm sort of looking at a general. It's sort of like, okay, Sam, when's the mask mandate going to end? And it's like, it's going to be like rolling blackouts. I mean, and that's all that you can do is just explain it like that and duck and cover.
Have a
when
plan
you
B.
can. Yeah, have a plan B like I did. And I apologize for the folks that, maybe this whole COVID thing has inconvenienced as far as the meetups and everything. I mean, it's been very disappointing for me. I probably have, between $8,000 and $10,000 sitting in with the various airlines because of canceled trips that I tried so desperately. And then I just kind of gave up and said, well, you know what? I'm just going to wing it. We're not actually going to specifically. And even with you, I mean, as I got closer, then I was able to confirm, because I was thinking, well, geez, I don't want people driving all the way, to meet me and then have me not be there.
And we had to change restaurants at the last minute yesterday. So, it's just, I don't know. Things seem to work out for you, though. They might throw a lot of hassle in your way, but
so far, so good.
All right. Rosanna M says, hey, Sam and Rudy, what do the aliens think about all this virus drama? So what do you think those alien scientists that are watching? Yeah, you wonder what their perception is of what we're doing to ourselves.
They're not that deep into it,
Okay.
They're more into us using our nuclear weapons and observing that. But as far as, it's not like they watch our news channels or anything.
Yeah. Okay.
That they're not that deep into things. Do you know what I mean?
Kind of like watching a bird build a nest, that's a little bit weird. Cool.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So they don't think much of it. We're just letting us go crazy. Michelle says, hello, I watched a show on Beyond Mystic with Jean-Claude. Woo-woo dude has a feeling financial system will change very soon, but people will not realize. Events unfold as early as December 31st. Pennicilli sees January 14th as important. Cliff High mentioned January 7th and 28th. Do you see anything for these dates that you see anything important in world events, war, financial system change between now and the end of January? So I guess, Sam, any major events for the next 31 days or 30 days?
Well, I'm concerned about Israel and Iran, but I don't know when that's going to happen. I feel like soon. We'll continue to see the countries fail. Lebanon has failed. Turkey is now failing. Oh gosh, what's going to be the next country to fail? It's just going to be one country after the other. And China is in for so many problems. You're going to see like major financial collapse with a lot of Chinese.
With Evergrande, the Evergrande, kind of the snowball effect.
The snowball effect, but in China, and they're desperately trying to cover it over, but it's starting to affect the rest of the world as far as finances are going. So really the only thing that's saving a lot of things is the printing of the money.
Yeah, maybe that's just kind of the slow letdown. With China is interesting because they can control their media so much that I wonder eventually, I guess, when we see it leaking out, then we know it's probably really, really bad.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right, our next question comes from Winner is retired. Or did you retire already, Winner? That's awesome. Hi, Sam and Rudy. Merry Christmas to you both. Edward Casey studied a phenomenon called 100 monkeys, by where a subconscious phenomenon took place. During a meditation class a few weeks back, I was summoned to the outer atmosphere with my soul to push a positive wave of energy around the globe, channeling energy from the universe. My question is, do you think that there are others with this ability? LOL, because I can't do it on my own. I have drawings to show what happened. Thanks. So, Sam, what do you think? Like people kind of all coming to this. The 100 monkeys is where, after the 100th monkey learns something, they all kind of start doing it. It just kind of subconsciously takes control, becomes kind of common knowledge without it being transmitted. So when Winter's talking about feeling the need to do some of these positive things. Do you think that there are others in the, here on earth with kind of a similar ability, similar calling that are going to kind of end up doing the same thing? I hope I paraphrased your question right, Winter.
I'm not aware of anybody who can do that.
Okay.
So I'll just leave that to Winter. I'd have to get some more information on that because I'm not aware of that it being anything that we can do in our light being.
Okay.
Like I have an idea of what we can do and what we can't do.
Yeah.
And these sorts of things would be more if, for example, if Winter and a bunch of us, all sort of focused our good intentions or our prayers on what he's talking about, but it would actually be a source that would be responding and doing that.
Okay.
So maybe he was just confused about who was actually doing it, I think maybe.
Right.
But you know what? I mean, I don't know how far into it is, and I appreciate the question because maybe this is an opportunity for him to have a better understanding of that he's more of a catalyst or it's just like, the same as with me being a medium. It's like these abilities are, it's through my DNA, but it comes from the people on the other side, conveying that through me. But, I definitely don't take credit for that. And sort of that higher stuff, the higher sort of magical stuff that you may see in a movie or something like that, we can't actually do because it's kind of against the rules for somebody to have that much power.
But it's interesting concept that, if you feel compelled to kind of re-resonate some positive information, a prayer at the same time, you wonder, maybe are there other people that are praying, other people that are doing the same thing, but a different way just because they feel compelled to. I know sometimes you just get a really positive feeling. So interesting. Okay. Thanks, Winter. Bruce D says, hard science aside, Ormus is often considered to be a new state of matter, one that is present in some of the most life-supporting environments on our planet. In spiritual terms, Ormus is believed to be the underlying lifeblood of consciousness. Always wondered about this. Thanks. Happy holidays, Rudy and Sam. So, Sam, have you ever heard of Ormus?
No. Considered to be a new state of matter, life-supporting environments on our planet. Lifeblood of consciousness. Huh.
Ormus.
Yeah, and see, I wonder where Bruce got that.
Yeah, I mean, I've
never heard of Ormus before.
It's a place. I see it as a mineral. So, yeah, sorry, Bruce. Maybe if you want to send a link sometime with some more information, I'll see if I can take a look and work that into a larger topic.
I can help with that one, Bruce. That's a great question, and a lot of great research spurs from questions from our fellow Sam Jammers.
All right. Oh, a Jesus question. I like this one. William Penn writes, prevailing thought in Christianity is that Jesus's parents were poor. How was their social status? Was there really no room at the end? What do you think, Sam? I mean, busy travel season, they just didn't have a reservation, or were they poor? Were they middle class? What do you think about Jesus's parents?
Well, it was during the time, so a lot of people were on the move.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of people who had no place to sleep.
Right.
And so even some people who had some money probably didn't have any place to sleep as well.
Right.
I mean, I almost experienced that when I was in, where were we at? When we booked a hotel room and the guy told me it's the first travel weekend before Christmas and it's bananas. And I think there was only 4 rooms left. And it was Amarillo.
Oh,
yeah. And we did have a room booked, but then when we got to the room, it was like none of the housekeeping had been done. And it was like shady, like crazy. So we got out of there at the Quality Inn in Amarillo and we left. And and again, it was so weird because again, we were talking about like these little clues and stuff. I was at John's house and we were about to leave and I was just in the bathroom and then his mom, who passed away like 10 years ago, told me that, he like the data stick, and he had mentioned it to me like when I first got there, right? About the data stick. And he goes, he has a data stick. He doesn't use it anymore. It's part of his unlimited plan, and I can use it if I need it, right? And I didn't have it. I didn't take it from him. We were getting ready to leave, and I swear his mother told me to go and get it and to take it with me, and she even told me where it was. And so I went into the room because she like just pointed and she went, and I went into the room and I've never seen a data stick before.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't sure exactly what it looked like, but then I saw something and I picked it up and I was like, I bet you this is it. This would make sense. And so I was actually using that data stick in my in the computer, and I went on Expedia because there was only 4 hotel rooms left in all of Amarillo.
Yeah.
Right. And I managed to find a room, like one of the last rooms at the Red Roof Inn in Amarillo. So that because remember, it has to be pet friendly as well. So again, we're talking about like these little things that you don't know exactly why, but they end up, saving your butt. So, that kind of my little story came out from William Penn talking about there being no room in the inn. I mean,
thanks, John's mom.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and Joseph was a carpenter, but he probably made an okay living. I don't know. Do you think his parents were?
Yeah, I think they would have been considered just,
Yeah.
Lower income and, and I mean, she got knocked up pretty early.
Yeah.
So
they had to travel for the census,
Yeah.
and they had to travel on a bad time. So,
Yeah.
Okay. Chris says, hi, Sam and Rudy. Some spiritual teachers talk about the potential of shifting timelines. As in one timeline, you get your best version expressed, and in another timeline, a lesser version. Is it possible to shift timelines and go to a parallel version of yourself and thus go through different destinies? If yes, how could you shift between timelines?
No, it's not possible. Again, just something that the no talents have made up. Again, they just want to write a book and go on tour because it's fun, right? And then you have all these people, bowing down and worshiping you, thinking that you have some kind of contact and information when you don't. I mean, it just gives these people, I mean, I wonder how many of these people are like narcissistic megalomaniacs or just, or some people are just terribly misled. They think that they're onto something and but then they have to keep it going. Right. And then they have to create new stuff or people aren't interested anymore. You know what I mean? And they keep adding on it. And what is this timeline stuff? It's like, first of all, time is not, it doesn't exist like it does here on the other side.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So the life you're living here, this is it, folks. This is so when I'm seeing different, it's sort of like people say, oh, well, why didn't you tell me that was coming? I said, well, I asked the people on the other side, if you would listen to me, and they told me that you wouldn't.
Right.
But sometimes I see, like, I go back again to this guy who was a longtime smoker. And now listen, I get no information from people before I do a reading with them, because again, I need the confirmations so that I can speak with confidence, because I don't want to mislead anybody. I want to make sure that, especially when you're talking about life and death stuff. Anyways, I brought up with this guy about his smoking, and I said, if you don't quit now, I said, you will die of lung cancer. But if you stop like right now, then you have a chance where you'll only get emphysema, right? Or COPD later on. And then there'll be medications that will help manage that. So you're not getting off the hook for your, he had already smoked since he was a very young person, right? And he was already maybe around 40 something. But I did tell him that he had, but the reason I told him that is because they told me that me giving him that information would scare the bejesus out of him, right? And then he would follow through on that. And I even said to him, I said, and you're going to slip and fall and you're going to start smoking again. And I want you to remember me telling you this, stop beating yourself up and just get back on the horse again. It's the same as when you're trying to lose weight, right? Once in a while, like, oh my gosh, that cat lady from Arizona, she got like this cheesecake that just looked like it was like to die for. And I'm still trying to get off the other half of that COVID-19 I put on. and so I didn't have any of that.
Put down the fork.
I know, step away from the cheesecake, Samantha. But if I had some of that, right, I would have said, okay, well, maybe just one bite, right? But then if I devoured the whole thing, then it's like, okay, get back on the horse tomorrow. Tomorrow's a new day. Don't go and order a pizza when you get home tonight, and drink a couple of beer and that sort of thing, right?
I'll say it's funny. Sam has a way of delivering messages that can scare the crap out of you and get you to change your course, where you have just enough time to actually impact change. But I always think about that as we beat ourselves up if we, oh, I ate that or I got off track. And you really have a whole team of people on the other side. They don't get down about like, oh, darn, you did this. They just cheer you on when you pick up and keep going, right?
That's right. You can do it. And so I ask the people, so that's not an alternative timeline thing. What it is what I'm seeing are the options. And it's like, if you marry that person, here's that nexus point.
Right.
And if you marry that person, this is the path I see you going out on. And this is the things that, but then what the people on the other side tell me is they tell me whether or not that person is going to listen to me a lot of times. Right. Yeah. So then I feel like, okay, I know this is a scary death message that I'm like, you're going to get lung cancer but if you right now, if you quit like right now,
yeah.
right. And then you don't, you're going to slip a little bit and you're going to take a few, drugs that you shouldn't be taking. But
and yeah, you can't, it's hard to stop cold turkey, but and that's the greatest cop out. I'll just say is that, oh yeah, timeline shift. I was wrong. I didn't get that last prediction right. That's what they'll do on
YouTube. And I tell people that as well. I'm just like, no, that was me. I made a mistake. I was wrong. Just like that I used the exact example before about the Aboriginal law that was passed in Australia. I even named what the law was, and that it was from Australia, and that it would be enacted soon. And it was, I think, within a year. But it wasn't about COVID. It was about the Aboriginal. So I misunderstood what the reason was for the law. I thought it was COVID related, but it wasn't. But I got the name of the law down to the T and the country that was going to have it passed in its part. I think I even said parliament. So in Australia. So again, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. It was kind of cool to get that exact answer, but then to also use it as a teaching moment to say, hey, you know what? I was off on the catalyst and what this law was all about. So, you've got to be able to stand up as a medium and go, hey, you know what? I made a mistake. It's not an exact science. It's like when you're driving on the road. I mean, once in a while you wander over the line a bit, or you were going a little bit too fast, so you had to do a hard stop behind somebody. It's just like that in mediumship. If you're driving on those roads every single day, you're not going to be absolutely perfect. You just have to pay attention and just do your very best, and then be honest when you screw up and don't say, oh, timeline shift. And what makes me really mad, I mean, there are very few things in this world that will piss me off, but what pisses me off are mediums who blame you. If they blame you for it's something not coming true that they predicted or whatever, I'm just like, oh, that really makes me mad, because they're the ones who were doing a very sad job and probably shouldn't be charging people what they're charging, because they have such a low result rate.
Okay. Next question from Huddle Queen. It's so exciting to see the two of you together in Arizona. A lot of people are very wound up right now for various reasons. Do you have any spiritual advice to help them calm down so they can enjoy the holiday and be well?
Well, I think it all depends on where you are in the world. I mean, it's going to be an interesting holiday season, that's for sure, as we see things start to break apart in a lot of the countries. Oh my gosh.
Turn off the news, enjoy your family.
I was going to say, and don't get sucked into any of the drama, and just listen to people. I mean, if they want to go on about politics or something like that, just I like that Jesse Lee Peterson. Amazing. People say the most ridiculous things, right? And you just look at them and go, amazing. I think I'm going to do that from now on. My husband and I were talking about that. I was like, and I actually played like the top, just because I ran across it one time. I thought it was so funny because they did like the people who phone in.
Oh yeah.
And of course I have an interest in that, because one of the things I plan on doing, I'm hoping to do in the future, is to actually do a phone in Ask a Medium type of setup, which is
tell me more. What else you got? All right, next question from Marlon Gone Surfing. Hi both, love the sweater and Christmas tree, Rudy. Sam, glad that the fire behind you is not real and not the 15th century for your magical abilities. Question, when you receive messages from the other side, are they mainly from entities here on Earth? Can you get messages from other planets, galaxies, solar systems in the universe? Thank you, Merry Christmas.
Well, I wouldn't say that so much as the information I get are from your loved ones who've passed over, who are now in their, I call it the shiny state, right? They're now back to being light beings. They've had their end of life review, and they now know everything that they now have a clear understanding of everything that happened while they were here. And then, of course, they're going to try to give me information to help support you and give you information, based on that. And I would get information like from source, which would be the collective. We know it as God, but really what it is, it's just a collection of all of our loved ones who've passed over. And that would be more the information that I would get about like sort of the worldwide predictions. I don't mind sharing just with the group here on Rudy's Psychic Meetup that when I saw the avalanche that was happening, I didn't want to tell people this, but I did see like an angel. There was a lady who was driving in the car. And I found out there was a woman who was killed in the avalanche. This was really for me. It wasn't so much for you guys because I don't want to shock people. And I think that because, we would have put it on the prediction thing if I had said, I'm in the car with this woman as an angel where I have wings that is enveloping her to let her know that she is going to be safe, meaning that she was killed, but I would tell the family that when she was going through this, that an angel was with her. Right. Cause I was in the car when it was happening. That's when I was like, driving, and then I'm thinking, oh no, when the rocks are coming down. But I was like, oh no. And I was in the car with her and the car was going and I was seeing or feeling like I was the angel holding on to her to let her know that she was going to be, because a lot of people are like, oh my God, that must have been absolutely terrifying. And it was like, well, actually, she was already aware of some kind of a benevolent being in the car with her as she was being killed in this landslide, right? So,
like you said before, the angels, their job is to escort you to and from, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not an angel. I'm a person just like you're a person, and everybody else is a person that has a light being inside of me. But I'm still trying to understand when I see these things. And I just wanted to share that with you because that was an unusual. That was like the first thing and then when they pulled it out and they were like, this was a prediction, it came true.
Right.
And I was like, okay, yeah. And I knew it was the Coca-Cola as well. I knew that as well. So
You
there were
didn't say
two
that.
things, but I didn't say Coca-Cola. It was in my head because I thought that was my own personal situation. But the angel thing as well. I guess I kind of felt weird about bringing that up.
Too much.
Just sometimes I feel weird about talking about certain things because I don't want people to think that I am anything more than what I am.
Okay.
But I think that that's important information because, if I was a really well-known medium, I would feel good that the family would know that their mother, their sister, their daughter had an angel already there in the car with her. Because that's what people think of. They think of her, oh my God, she's smothered and she was terrified. And that it was like, you know what? She was actually the angel was there already when she was,
And and do people, they tend to take them out of the body before they really feel that pain and trauma in some of those cases?
I learned that really early on when there was somebody on the Discord channel who was writing me because their aunt and uncle had just lost their son in a severe car accident. And I asked if it was a head-on collision where the car, like I felt like the steering wheel had impaled him. And that the parents were just out of their mind with not only grief, but, anybody who has a child, if you have an adult child who gets in a car accident, if you see their body all mangled, or if they're like, oh yeah, no, they were killed instantly because the steering wheel impaled them, right? They just kept thinking about that like over and over and over again. So the first thing that they wanted me to tell them was that they had been yanked from their body. So they didn't feel anything. They were like, oh no. And see, I didn't know the details of the accident. I didn't know it was a head-on collision. I didn't know the person had been impaled with the steering wheel, but I got that from the person who had passed over. They already had their end-of-life review because it happens almost instantly and unless you get caught in the in-between.
All right. Well, our last question for this evening comes from Raymond. Merry Christmas, Sam and Rudy. We often hear stories of good versus evil and good angels versus bad ones. Often it is referred to as a war between angels or a war in the heavens. Is this an interesting story created a long time ago to illustrate why people should behave and give excuses and give an excuse to their conduct? Or are they really bad angels encouraging us to do unethical things? Does everyone experience like this in their life? Thanks, Raymond. So the war in heaven, was it the real deal?
Oh, I have personal experience with that. Yes.
Raymond, are you new to this group? Come on.
Yeah, the war in heaven is real. I was in it. I know
right.
That was one of the things they told me, that I was like, okay, now I know I'm batshit crazy. Like, I don't want to tell anyone that. Can you imagine going, I was in the war in heaven, right? If they're showing me it, they're telling me what happened. And, but it was the people on the Discord channel who told me like these things. And I had been thinking about it. And then I like literally clicked on Discord, and then somebody wrote me and said, were you a warrior? I saw you. And it was like, and they were telling me what I saw. Right. And and that confirmed to me that I wasn't nuts so crazy.
Yeah.
Right. Because I mean, that's a weird thing to tell people.
Well,
right.
And DJ in the comments says he was removed from his body before his accident and returned when it was over. So he didn't feel any of that. Like, doesn't remember any of it. So
So yeah, it does happen. Thanks, for sure. So yeah, the war in heaven is real. It's long since over with. The decision was made. And one thing, when I was watching this priest, when he was talking about exorcism, and he said that Lucifer fell like immediately, and I was like, and the people on the other side told me that's not true. Okay. And then they showed me the story, and I felt, and I feel it's an honor for them to share this information with me. Yeah. That, it was almost like what happened is that you had a couple of angels like Lucifer and a few others who were really hateful over the fact that the light beings were made in the image of God or part of God. And they were like, well, why should we serve you? We're more bigger and powerful, like, because the decision was made to allow us to reincarnate into a human body. Okay. Right. And the angels serve us. I mean, they take us down to the earth realm, and they take us home. Yeah. Right. And they had a group that were like, oh, well, we're much bigger and powerful than these humans that you're putting your light, why should we serve you? And that was sort of the whole like gist of it. And then 1/3 of the angels were actually sucked into believing this. So
there's free will on the angel side as well.
On the angel side. Oh yeah, exactly. So then that's how the war happened. Okay. And they lost in the blink of an eye. I mean, let's face it, they didn't even stand a chance. But in a weird way, it was all part of the plan, because part of what we fight against here as humans with our, encased in our, light beings is that we're fighting against evil. So it becomes almost like a game for these demonic entities to try to get light beings to, I mean, the first thing they want you to do is, if they can get you to kill a whole bunch of people, right? Have those people like die in terror is their goal, right? Because some of them will get caught in between because of that. So they can be harassed by the demons, creatures, and things that live in between. And then if they can't get you to kill like a whole bunch of people, they'll at least try to get you to kill yourself, or maybe you and your spouse and your kids, or just yourself, like kill yourself, right? They'll try to get you to kill yourself. Like like I said, Satan just roams the earth along with the other demonic entities, looking to see whom they may devour. Okay. And there's some people, they get you through poverty. And this whole thing with the COVID-19, like, this is straight from the pit of hell. Okay. Because look at what it's doing to society, to one another. Yeah. And just before we close tonight, I'm just going to say a prayer. Okay. Because I want everybody. Oh, Urbanaut has a question. It's 30 degrees in Sydney. It's freezing here. We're wearing sweaters.
He wants you to reply about the return of Christ. Do you think Jesus or any embodiment of Jesus returns to earth?
No, it's not like that. Okay. And just like they said that he will come with a sword, not with, and I always say to people, when people are like, oh, so what's the Great Awakening about? And I'm like, well, I'll give you a hint. Nobody's getting nailed to the cross this time. So that's what the Great Awakening is about. And there are people who are here who are part of this Great Awakening, and will lead the charge against, the evil entities that are, coming down upon us. And like I said, the first shot was already fired, and it's this all this COVID-19 nastiness and the lockdown that's causing poverty, it's causing strife.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like when I was getting my Shinrex, I told people before that, and I've told people this, I said, you know, here I was giving up my dose because I had to get my Shinrex, and not everybody, they didn't have it. They were saying they didn't have enough doses for everybody. And I was like, oh, well, I'll easily sacrifice myself. I won't get that, because if they don't have enough for like my 80-year-old mother and my husband who works at the hospital, I'm definitely not going to line up to get one. But it morphed from that to, if people found out that I was unvaccinated for as long as I was, I felt like somebody would hurt me.
Yeah.
You know, feeling like you're the reason this, you know, if you would just get your vaccination, then, but look at what's happening. Everybody's out and they're getting vaccinated. And guess what? It's still this, it's nature is still taking its course. No matter what humanity does, nature will always win out. And it's just part of human arrogance. And like I said, that just always comes from the pit of hell as well. So I'm going to say a little prayer before we go, because I want everyone to be positive and happy over the holidays. And hopefully the information that I've shared with everybody, you know, like I said, everybody is free to have their own beliefs. I'm happy to share with you guys, you know, what I know. So Kashadia Murianas, Ikasimiarodan, Doteano Simiano Shorian, Titiaro Shola, Tiro Massiniano Diano Siniano Shora, Koleaba Shoria, Datia Marodea, Latiado Sam, Cotiano Titan, Yashobeato, Siano Shomialadet, Yado Simino Tiano Shon. So Merry Christmas to everybody.
Wow, Merry Christmas. Thanks, Sam. And we'll look forward to seeing you next year. We got some great shows. We'll have a story with Barton's going to join us, and maybe cooking with Queen Maria. No. All right, everyone. Thanks. See you next year. Merry Christmas.
Bye for now.